Have you ever wondered how the world's most powerful nation could fall into a decade-long economic crisis? Welcome to our journey through the Great Depression. The year was 1929, and the United States, a beacon of prosperity, was about to face a catastrophic downturn, a time that would be remembered as the Great Depression had just begun. It was an era marked by widespread unemployment, acute deflation, and severe poverty. But what sparked this unprecedented crisis? The Wall Street crash of 1929. This monumental financial disaster saw billions of dollars vanish within a matter of days, toppling the economy and plunging the nation into a period of economic stagnation that would last for over a decade. Little did the world know that this was not just an American crisis. It was the onset of a global economic downturn. So the stage was set for a global economic disaster. But what exactly led to this? A single event can trigger a cascade of effects, and this is precisely what happened in the 1930s. The economy was like a row of dominoes, teetering on the edge of stability. The initial push came from the stock market crash, a fall so severe that it took the entire economy down with it. As the market plummeted, banks began to fail. These were not isolated incidents, but a series of collapses that spread like wildfire across the country. The banking system was inextricably linked with the stock market, and as stocks lost their value, so did the assets of the banks. This resulted in a lack of funds to cover withdrawals, causing banks to close their doors, leaving millions without access to their savings. With banks failing and people losing their money, consumer confidence plummeted. This led to a significant reduction in purchasing. People were afraid to spend, and this fear rippled through the economy, affecting businesses big and small. Shops had to close, factories had to cut down production, and this in turn led to layoffs. The international gold standard also played a significant role in this economic downfall. The United States, like many countries at the time, was on a gold standard, meaning the value of the dollar was tied to a specific amount of gold. As the economy spiraled downward, people began to exchange their dollars for gold, causing the gold reserves to dwindle. This led to further devaluation of the dollar and deepened the economic crisis. The dominoes continued to fall. The combination of bank failures, reduction in purchasing, and the issues with the gold standard took a toll on employment and personal income. Unemployment soared as businesses closed or downsized, and those lucky enough to still have jobs often faced wage cuts. Personal income dropped drastically, and many families found themselves struggling to make ends meet. With the economy in shambles and unemployment on the rise, the nation was in dire need of a solution. The dominoes had fallen, and it was now time to pick them up and start anew. But that's a story for the next scene. In the midst of despair, a beacon of hope appeared in the form of President Franklin D. Roosevelt and his New Deal. This New Deal was not just a single policy, but a series of programs and projects introduced during the 1930s. Its main goals were threefold: relief for the unemployed and poor, recovery of the economy to normal levels, and reform of the financial system to prevent a repeat depression. A significant part of the New Deal focused on creating jobs. The Works Progress Administration, or WPA, put millions to work on public projects like roads, bridges, and public buildings. Meanwhile, the Civilian Conservation Corps, or CCC, provided jobs for young men in reforestation, road construction, and flood control projects. These programs offered a lifeline to many Americans, helping them to keep food on the table during these challenging times. Support for farmers was another critical aspect of the New Deal. The Agricultural Adjustment Act was introduced to stabilize farm prices, which had plummeted during the Great Depression. By paying farmers to reduce production, the government aimed to increase crop prices and help farmers stay afloat. The New Deal also aimed to reform the financial system. The Glass-Steagall Act was enacted to separate commercial and investment banking, and the Securities and Exchange Commission was established to regulate the stock market, and prevent abuses of the kind that led to the 1929 crash. But the New Deal was not without its critics. Some argued that it was too interventionist, that it gave too much power to the government. Others felt it didn't go far enough, that it failed to address the underlying economic inequalities that had contributed to the crisis. Despite these criticisms, the New Deal did succeed in bringing about some key structural reforms and providing immediate relief for millions of Americans. It helped to stabilize the economy and restore faith in the American financial system. The New Deal brought some relief, but the road to recovery was long and arduous. The Great Depression was not just a period of economic hardship. It left lasting impacts that shaped the future of America. It was a defining moment in American history, a time of trial and transformation that brought about profound changes in the nation's economic and political landscape. One of the most significant outcomes was the expansion of the federal government's role in the economy. Before the Great Depression, the government had a hands-off approach, a laissez-faire attitude towards the economy. But the economic turmoil spurred President Franklin Roosevelt to introduce the New Deal, an array of programs and policies aimed at recovery and reform. This marked a shift from a minimalist government to an active participant in economic affairs, a role it continues to play today. The Great Depression also instigated a shift in the political landscape. The Democratic Party, under Roosevelt's leadership, became the majority, replacing the Republicans who had dominated the 1920s. This political shift was largely due to the New Deal policies that won the support of the working class, farmers, and the poor. In terms of lessons learned, the Great Depression underscored the importance of financial regulation. Following the economic collapse, the government implemented strict regulations on banks and the stock market to prevent such a catastrophe from happening again. These regulations continue to serve as safeguards in our financial system today. Moreover, the Great Depression taught us the value of economic resilience and adaptability. It highlighted the need for a diverse economy, one that is not overly reliant on a single industry or sector. This lesson has guided economic policies and strategies ever since, promoting diversification and innovation. Lastly, the Great Depression reinforced the importance of social safety nets. The widespread suffering and poverty brought about by the Depression led to the establishment of welfare programs that provide assistance to those in need, a concept that remains integral to our society today. The Great Depression was a time of hardship, but it was also a time of learning and growth. Its lingering effects and the lessons learned have profoundly shaped the America we know today, reminding us of our capacity to overcome adversity and emerge stronger. The Great Depression, a decade of despair, brought about significant changes in the United States and the world. Let's take a moment to revisit the key points we've explored in this journey back in time. The Great Depression, an economic calamity of unprecedented scale, was not an isolated incident, but a domino effect that rippled across the globe. It began with an invisible catastrophe, a stock market crash in late October of 1929 that ushered in a decade of hardship and struggle. This crash was not merely a financial event. It was a societal earthquake that shook the foundations of the world's economies, leading to widespread unemployment, poverty, and despair. The prosperity of the Roaring Twenties was abruptly replaced with a stark reality of soup kitchens, bread lines, and a sense of hopelessness. The response to this economic disaster was the New Deal, a series of policies and programs implemented by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. These measures were designed to provide relief for the unemployed and poor, recovery of the economy, and reforms to prevent a similar catastrophe in the future. The New Deal marked a significant shift in the relationship between the government and its citizens, as it took on a more active role in the economy and in ensuring the welfare of its people. However, the shadow of the Great Depression continued to linger long after the New Deal was implemented. The economic, social, and political impacts of this period have shaped the course of history in profound ways. The lessons learned from this time of hardship have informed economic policies and practices to prevent such a disaster from reoccurring. But perhaps the most enduring legacy of the Great Depression is the resilience and adaptability of the human spirit. In the face of adversity, people came together, helping one another to weather the storm. This period of history serves as a potent reminder of our collective strength and our capacity to endure, adapt, and overcome. In conclusion, the Great Depression was a transformative period in history that fundamentally changed the way we understand economics, government, and society. It was a time of great hardship, but also of great learning and growth. As we look back on this period, we can draw upon the lessons learned to guide our actions in the present and to shape a better future. The Great Depression was a grim chapter in our history, but it serves as a reminder of our resilience and our ability to adapt and overcome.